Okay, we're a few minutes past noon, and we've got a few things to go over, so let's get everybody in here. And I'm going to ask Reverend Patty if she will step up and pray us in.
Is different from what matters in our 40s and 50s. Okay, so let's pray in. Breathing in and releasing, relaxing those muscles. Breathe in the breath of life, of joy, of connection. Let gratitude arise for each person that makes up this fellowship. We pray a blessing over all that Unity Bonaire is and all that it is becoming. We claim the activity of spirit right here and right now as we open our hearts and minds to join together to create beauty, love, and connection. And so it is. Amen.
Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Myra Faderspiel. I'm the treasurer for the board this year. Some of you, probably all of you, know that our wonderful Zita, who is our board president, has been in the hospital since Monday. She's still in the hospital, and I hope everybody will send her lots of love and healing light, and we'll celebrate when she finally gets out and can be here. And I'm going to tell her that even though I have pretty big feet, my feet cannot fill her shoes for the most part. I would like to introduce and recognize all of our board members. Mike Regulinski, who is our vice president, is vacationing in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I told him he's going to get snowed in, but he still went. We have Chuck Clark here, Harry Simmons, Reverend Lisa Marks, is she here? There's our trustees, Jane Gordon, Rusty Rothrock, who is not here, Tom Lehman had to leave, our secretary Amy, who is over there taking minutes for us. Did I remember everybody? Okay. We've got a couple of things we need input from our membership today. We've had several members approach the board about a columbarium. And the board has really looked at this. We asked a group of our members to form a research team for us, and it was headed up by Marcy Murphy, Becky Mames, I'm going to try to remember everybody, Chuck Clark, Reverend Lisa Marks, Joanne Einsman, and Nadine Oswell. They have just done a phenomenal job. They looked at what other churches in the area and around were doing. They looked at manufacturers. They gave us ideas, possible cost. And Marcy is going to do a presentation. And then afterwards, we have a survey. And we're asking our members to respond to the survey. It's like maybe, 5 questions? For those who are online, the link to the survey will be in this week's e-news, and that link will be active through November the 5th. This will then give us, as a board and as a church, an idea of what you all want us to do, so we can then take the next step. So I'm going to turn this over to Marcy and Becky and let them explain it all to you.
Okay, don't live in fear. This is a very short PowerPoint presentation, but it was the easiest way for me to compile the information. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide, Deb. Okay. Hello and welcome. You can go ahead and move to the next one. So these are the options under consideration. These are things that we have seen that other churches in the area are doing. They are all things that we are considering for our space in our garden. We won't know what direction we're going to proceed until we get the results of the survey and see where the interest lies among our congregation. So they're pretty obvious, and we're going to talk about each of these a little more in depth. Scattering of ashes is pretty much self-explanatory. Interment is actual bury of ashes in the ground. Columbarium is a structure that we would design and build in the garden. And then an in-ground niche is that little device there on the end. So we'll take these each one at a time. So Deb, go ahead. There we go. So scattering of ashes is pretty obvious. What we will be doing is setting aside a specified area for the scattering of ashes, so it will not just be random in the garden. We will have a designated area. To go with that, we will likely build a wall so that we can have your names and dates on a plaque so people would know whose ashes have been scattered out there. Interment is basically putting your ashes directly in the ground. We don't know yet whether we will require a biodegradable container. There's examples there, cardboard tubes, muslin bags. One of the churches that we investigated actually requires a muslin bag, and they have that as a ministry of their church, where there is a church member who actually makes those bags for the church. Or you might be able to do your choice of a traditional urn. Again, that's a decision we have not yet made, but those would be the choices for direct burial in the ground of your ashes. Okay, Deb? Okay. A columbarium is the structure where there are individual niches. Typically, they would hold 2 sets of cremains, so family members could be buried inurned together. This structure is something we can be as fancy or as plain as we choose. Obviously, fancy will drive up the cost. So those are just some examples there. One is very straightforward, just a rectangular structure. The other one is a little bit fancier with the cross in the design. The one on the bottom, or in the middle, actually, is basically a pre-constructed. It would be delivered here just like that, and we would just put it in place in our garden. The other option is an in-ground niche, which is basically a tube where the urns get placed in the tube, and then there is an etched stone on top of the tube. Other places they have these at Hollywood Cemetery, and basically what they have done is created a walkway with those in-ground niches. So that is an option as well. And then, of course, names and dates on top of the plaque on the top. Go ahead, Deb. So those are the options that we're considering. Those are all addressed on the survey to see what your preference would be if you would like to be buried in our garden. So what will happen next is that we'll compile the results of the surveys. And then once we locations in the gardens, we don't know if we build a columbarium, we don't know yet where it's going to be. We've been asked if we could possibly make it wheelchair accessible so that people coming to visit will have opportunities to roll closer to the columbarium itself, so that will drive where it might be located. We would need to interview contractors, who's going to build it, what would the design be, site plans, all of those kinds of things. And then final plans, once we're there, we will share with the congregation so that we can give you a better idea of locations, designs, costs, and all of those things. So as far as the surveys, we would love it if you would complete it before you leave today. That would be most helpful. If you're watching from home, as Myra said, the link to the survey will be in this week's e-news. You have until November 5th to fill that out. And I will just say, sort of personally, if you haven't yet made arrangements for what you're going to where you're going to end up. I will tell you personally, it is a huge gift to your loved ones if you make those arrangements ahead of time. We've had some untimely deaths in my family, and we have had to scramble to make those arrangements. It is hugely helpful if your family just says, oh yes, we already know where she wants to be, what those arrangements are, have those already in place. So it is a huge gift to your family. We are also asking, and it doesn't indicate that, but on the bottom of the survey in the comment section, if you already have arrangements, if you could let us know that, just so we know it's not really that you're not interested in being in our garden, it's just that you've already made other arrangements. That would also be a big help to us as well. If there are any questions, we have a microphone. You can come up. We don't at this time because the cost, particularly for the columbarium, will be based on how much it costs us to construct it. Basically, we're looking for the garden to be self-funding, meaning that we would need to get agreements for X number of arrangements so that we don't have to outlay any cash to pay for the project. So no, but we will certainly be sharing that information as quickly as we have it.
One more question. Oh, now I can hear myself. If you've already made arrangements, and let's say you would like the columbarium, you would like your name and date, is that possible? Is that an option?
Without actually being interred there?
Yes.
Yes, we may actually have a memorial wall for folks just that where you just feel an attachment to this church and you would like to have your name on a wall. That's something else that's under consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Hi, I'm Nadine Oswald. So I think, first of all, as I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we don't necessarily have to be locked into one option only.
Oh, no.
Right.
All of these options are under consideration, and it could be a
Right.
combination of options.
Right, exactly. So we
Yes.
could have a columbarium, we could also have, the in-ground. I'm going to make a little plug, if I can, for the in-ground niche. Becky so kindly went out to Hollywood Cemetery. That's where I first saw this. In my mind, this is something that we could probably do one niche at a time, so that if somebody needed it, we would just purchase that one niche, or that that family would purchase that niche, and it would ultimately create a pathway through the garden. It would be almost like a little edging through the garden, so it would fit in very nicely. It'd be very unobtrusive. Anyway, and in my mind, that would save the church money, because as opposed to putting all the money first out for a columbarium, we would just buy one niche as we needed it. Is that right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
So anyway, that's my plug.
So here's a plug for the Boo and Stew. So we're having a table there next week with some more information, and come up and talk to us, or I'll be here. Okay.
More questions?
So as I understand it, and it's not a question, what you're asking is not if we should do this. Please come to the mic. I think I'm speaking loud enough.
We have folks online who.
So it's not a question of if, it's a question of how. That's what you're asking for input on, is that correct?
That is correct. If you would like to be in the garden, what would be your preference as to what we do with your cremains? And you can rank, if you so choose. The survey is set up in such a way that you can say, my first choice would be columbarium, second choice would be in the ground, third choice would be scattering, however. So just so that we can have a sense of how to proceed, once we gauge interest.
Yeah, well, my input would be to have kind of a area of the garden designated for this, not the entire garden
Oh, that's
necessarily.
exactly our intention, yep.
And I'm not sure about the business model, like how you're gonna, whether you said you don't want to have to pay for this or the church paying for it. It's going to be a kind of on a pay-as-you-go type of model.
It's going to be self-funding, yes.
Okay.
More questions? No? Okay. All right, I think that's it.
Thank you, Marcy. And as Marcy and Becky said, it may very well be a combination of several things. And most likely, there will be a very special area in the garden, but we haven't gotten that far. First step is this survey to get a feel for your interest and what you really would like to see. Any other questions or thoughts on that?
Hi, Marvin Maynard. I may have already answered this in my head, but just in case I'm confused. So we have memorial spots that people have dedicated, like air and so forth like that. This is completely different. This is to intern the ashes of people going forward in a specific area. Because I enjoy the garden, and I love the memorial spots, and I remember the people who are buried there, but I don't necessarily want to.
I guess the answer to your question is yes. We have people who have had their ashes interred in the garden,
Oh, didn't
and
know
we don't
that.
even know where they are.
Oh.
We don't know who it is.
Oh,
You know,
just randomly people came in?
people,
Oh, well, that's interesting.
and people have been, ashes have been scattered in the gardens, and we don't know who they are.
Okay.
So we would like to kind of get control of this,
Oh, okay. Well, now we know.
but we would also like to be able to recognize them
Right.
with their names and dates or whatever. And that's really kind of what started it in my brain is, I don't know who's out there.
But all the memorial spots stay where they are.
Yes,
And going forward, people can still dedicate a bench or this or that, but the ashes have to go specific places,
Yes.
right? All right, there's,
yes. We'll always welcome the gifts of benches and plants and other things. All right, let me see if I can get this on without making a racket. When you're treasurer, you don't expect to have to be presiding over meetings. Okay. The next thing. Some years ago, and maybe somebody can remember exactly when this occurred, I don't remember the date. Unity Worldwide did a marketing and branding campaign. And in that campaign, they wanted all Unity congregations to remove the word church from their title. The board has looked at this, and we're now going, Unity Worldwide is taking us through a rebranding. And they realized that that marketing campaign from some years ago didn't work. In fact, Unity churches, Unity organizations found that they were losing membership. And what may work in Oregon doesn't work in Bonaire, Virginia. And our board feels very strongly that we are a church, and we want to put the word church back in our title. And I'd like to get a feeling from you. Suggestions have been Unity Church of Bonaire or Unity of Bonaire Church. What are your thoughts? All right, could I have a show of hands? Unity Church of Bonaire? Oh, okay. All right.
We also took out the Christ. It was Unity Christ Church of Bonaire originally.
That is still our legal name. on all of the legal documents. That is still our name. But, yes, ma'am.
Have we kind of considered spiritual somewhere, or we can keep church, but I thought possibly we could put spiritual somewhere in our name, so people will know that we are a spiritual church.
We would have to figure out how to do that. There's
Okay,
only
I'm just throwing that
so
out.
much we can get on the signage. Emmy?
I just really like I like something with spiritual in it because I want the inclusion of these younger people to come into this church and be a part of it. And I will say a lot of people still today, even my boyfriend, you know, he was raised in Catholic and he just had a lot of reserve, but he loves unity. And he says it's not really a church. He feels the spiritual unity and oneness. So it really has opened his heart in a way that I don't know if it had church, you know, specifically in it, or something else that can draw these younger people in. Because my two sons are in their 30s and they are spiritual. So that would be my thought.
Howard?
You know, the name is Unity Church of Bon Air, and as far as the spiritual piece, the board is working and has what we call a what statement. What is Unity of Bon Air, which includes the practical, positive, spiritual Christianity in that what statement, which we hope to be on the bulletin and our website. It shares all that, but on the sign, it would probably just still say Unity Church of Bon Air. You want to read it? Can you read it?
So this is the statement for all Unity Gathering Centers. Unity is a positive, practical, and forward-thinking approach to the teachings of Jesus the Christ, recognizing the divine within each of us and the power of prayer. Unity honors the universal truths in all religions and respects each individual's right to choose a spiritual path.
Susan?
And before you have the opportunity to read that, which is beautiful, could we say something like Unity Spiritual Center of Bon Air or Unity Spiritual Church of Bon Air?
Well, like I said, there's only so much we can get on that sign. Well, I think what Patty read, we're hoping to put in the entranceway, as she said, on the website. I've never quite understood. To me, church and spiritual center are one and the same in my thinking. And it may not be in a lot of others, but that's the way I think. But we'll take this on back to the board and work on it. Get your input. Here comes John.
Check.
Gimpy arm John.
Hello, I'm John Rayfield. It just kept coming to me, Unity Church of Bon Air. On the sign, that's the main logo, you know. But underneath, and there's plenty of room for that, a spiritual community. So you're inclusive, you know.
I think we can work with that. We'll see what we can do.
Hey, Myra, Myra,
Yeah, where?
I'm back here.
Oh, okay. I was looking around for where that voice is
since
coming
I'm
from.
running it, Dan gave me a mic. I just have a question. I mean, are we not somewhat constrained by the practice of unity worldwide?
No, they're leaving the inclusion of church up to the individual unity organizations out in the community.
Okay.
Like what I said earlier. What may be really appropriate in California and work in California is not going to work here in Bon Air.
Right.
And so they are recognizing that and our individual community identities.
Okay, understood. But would adding the word in the actual title of the church, the phrase spiritual centers, not be not congruent with what unity, I mean, they're saying, yes, we can use church, but as part of that organization, can we, I mean, are we allowed to just add anything else we want? My understanding was that's not,
All
what
right,
it
Howard's
is.
the expert on getting
Well, I'm
into
not an
the-
expert, but Unity is trying to Unity Worldwide is trying to get the churches or the organizations to be more focused in what are you? Are you a church or are you not? Are you a spiritual center or not? You can still be spiritual without saying spiritual center. I mean, so I think John's recommendation of Unity Church of Bonaire with a spiritual underneath, a tagline is great, but they don't require you to, you can be the one, as far as individually, so.
From the input I've gotten is most of the Unity organizations in California are going to continue to identify themselves as spiritual centers or spiritual communities and not putting the word church in. But we've already seen here in Virginia, like Unity at Charlottesville. They are Unity Church of Charlottesville. So we'll take all of this back to the board and kind of get hustling on it because they're saying we're still in that approval process with the Planning Commission.
And we do want you to be familiar with the what statement. So when people come and ask you, what is Unity of Bonaire? What do you say to them? And that hopefully that what statement is what we are, and that, we can deliver that to visitors and first timers and people who are wondering, what is Unity?
Well, I believe. Jesus said, these things and greater things you can do than me. So I'm just going to speak just a tiny little bit because it's in the idea stage, the formulation stage, but I hear what folks are saying about we want to attract families, younger people, that kind of thing, and I think we're in the incubation stage of creating a Who We Are video. So a little tiny thing, there's no decisions made yet, there's no script, no anything yet, but I think that'll be a part of bringing more understanding in the community as to who UBA is.
Thanks, Amy. I hadn't even thought about talking about the video, but.
Hi, Jim Lakin. I just wanted to say that for me, church, when I was first growing up and getting out of college, if I was going to go to a place called a church, I would have never gone. Church to me signifies dogma. We are not dogma. So I would much rather see a spiritual center rather than referred to as a church.
Take my hat off. In the church, you're supposed to take your hat off unless you cover my head. But I was Googling it, which is the other side of my brain, and it had reference to a church is the called out ones dedicated to the Lord. And it's a place where Christians worship. But I have 3 boys, and you don't hardly see them around. Once in a while, the grandson comes. But I think for that generation, and they're in their late 20s, early 30s, there is such a wave and a change, whether it is the stigma of the church and the dogma and so forth. But I've always thought of Unity as a place, as a spiritual community, of a place for learning and moving forward, whether we agree with it or not. We will pass into spirit, and the other generations will come behind us, and that's part of the growth. And if it takes also for us to do a little tweaking so that they too can be attracted to what we have gained here in our demographic, I think that's worth meshing the two. Because when I speak of church to the young people, you know what I mean? There's a glaze that goes over like, oh. But when you say spiritual path, and so much that we share here and teach here and embrace here with so many people from different even denominations, I think that that is where that idea of spiritual comes in, because there is a shift in the demographic, and so many more young people are looking for a spiritual path, and Christianity is still viable. Absolutely.
Okay, we're kind of getting some contradictory messages. From our vote, it was almost unanimous, and now we've got all sorts of things. What do you feel about something similar to what John recommended? What? Yeah. Unity Church of Bon Air, and at the bottom of the sign, a spiritual community. Well, can I get a show of hands on that? That's about the best option we have right now. We'll have to take it all back to the board and get their feeling on it, okay? Didn't realize this was going to be quite as controversial a subject. So, all right. A vote for John's suggestion of Unity Church of Bon Air, a spiritual community. Okay. Yeah, it would stay Unity of Bon Air. You got to come up front.
My experience here has been that if we opted for something like Unity Church of Bon Air, people will use our nickname as comfortably and as often as they want, Unity of Bon Air. I love the idea of adding the tagline because it sounds very embracing.
Hi, I'm Wilma, and I was thinking we are looking for people who Google because that's what they're going to do. So you need keywords. And I think that we identify ourselves with our history of Unity Church of Bon Air. I very strongly feel that that can be our name. And then under it, spiritual community or spiritual center, so that when people Google, they could Google for a church, or they could go, so it shows that we have evolved, that we include everybody. And I think that that is what we're looking for. So you need all those keywords in there, and by doing those two sentences, you have covered both.
Good point. I can tell you my own personal experience. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a rather large meeting up in Bon Air. Well, there were 34 people. It was a luncheon. And I really wish I had taken a whole stack of the books that we put in our welcome packets that explains unity. Because I cannot tell you, of the 34 people there, at least 24 wanted me to explain, well, what is Unity of Bon Air? Are you a church? They didn't realize we were a church. And then after I started explaining, they went, oh, we never knew that. Can we come down sometime? You're always welcome. Yeah. So I like John's idea with the combination, but we'll take all these back. Amy's making all these minutes. The board will look at the minutes, and we'll see which direction we go in, and we'll come back to you. Okay, Emmy, and you're the last one. We got to move on. I want lunch.
I do too. I do like, you know, you're taking these notes, and I do like what Wilma said, either spiritual center or spiritual community, because one thing I like the word center just because it's like coming back home. And unity is like coming back home to our center. So those two things. I just want to, if you're taking notes back, let's not just say spiritual community. Let's look at spiritual center also.
All right, we're going to cut that off, take it all back to the board and get some decisions made. And I'm now turning it over to Reverend Patty so she can kind of update you on what's been going on and what she's got up her sleeves.
Oh, well, that was complicated. So mine isn't quite that complicated. So I want to share with you, every month when I write the board report, I start off with gratitudes. And every month it surprises me at the long list of gratitudes I have. So I just want to read you what I gave to the board this week. And this is who we are. So I said, we have been blessed in many ways. We concluded our 4-week series on prayer. Our service and workshop from Reverend Sandra was special. 100 booklets on prayer for protection were given out. Our CARES team had a good update and appreciation breakfast. Susan and Allie have sorted through the attic, and we are making more room for good. All 50 of the agreement books sold in the bookstore. The small groups are doing well. The new member class had 5 in attendance, and we've had 2 What Unity Teaches 30-minute classes. We hosted 2 weddings this month. The sanctuary screen is looking sharp and vivid. Our men helped with the heavy lifting. There was a great picture on Facebook of that, of them up in that hole. I missed that whole action, but the Montessori Uni gathering at Gale's Place went very well, and the men served burgers, and the Shrimp Festival and Dancing Under the Stars was very yummy, happy, and well attended. I attended the Eastern Region Conference for 4 days, and it was helpful and uplifting. I attended 1 session of the Unitive Justice Conference and was inspired. And Myra had a helpful meeting with the Bon Air Historical Society, and pets will be blessed and honored this Saturday as we sell all the attic treasures. That's the kind of thing that every month people show up and do things. So I read that to say, what this says is people are creating opportunities for learning, for connection, for gathering, to eat, to celebrate the one power and the one presence. So I'm inviting you to find a way to connect in sacred service if you have not yet. And I was just going to read that thing I just read over there from my phone, the unity statement. So what the national office is doing is trying to get some coordination so when you go to whoever identifies as a unity, there's similar things happening. There's teachings of what the Fillmores taught. There's a center on the divine Christ within. There's a center of acceptance. And one thing Shad said that sticks with me is when that original branding thing went away, that might have been a lot of people saying, I'm much more comfortable with a spiritual center than a church. But he said, here's the reality. We are a church. You walk in the door, you're greeted by greeters. You come to the sanctuary door, you're given bulletins. You come in the sanctuary, there's music and singing and praising and dancing here. And there's an offering being taken, there's a talk being given. It's a church. So I'm just throwing out that we don't have the dogma a traditional church has, but we are being a church in the way we show up and love and all these things that happen. So I continue to be very excited to serve in your midst. We have, and then I've got to say, so I bring greetings from Val. I was at Val's installation service. I brought presents from us to her and gave them to her. And she sends her love to everyone. So it's wonderful to see Unity of Richmond thriving and growing with her. And I'm looking forward to planning on I've asked one particular person to come be the guest speaker that Sunday, so we're still setting a date, but that'll be in the spring, so we're gonna party down then. Thanks.
And keep those jokes coming. I love her jokes, don't you? Gets me laughing. All right, the boring part of the meeting, the treasurer's report. I want to say, I honestly can't express how grateful as a treasurer, but as a member of this church, to all the people who have stepped up these past few months and helped us out, especially with the tree issues we've had. People donated the money to cover that cost. The repairs to the irrigation system, members donated the money to make those repairs. And it has been that way really all through the summer. We've had members stepping up and helping out with costs that we normally don't have to deal with. We've had a lot of tree problems this year, and that was a big impact for us. If we'd had to take that, had to have not had those donations, we would have done something we haven't had to do all year, and that's take money out of our money market account to cover expenses. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of those who have given and helped us out with these special projects. What? Oh, you can always scan that, the giving, go online, click on one of the tiles. We have not this year had to take any funds out of our money market account or savings to cover expenses. In the past, especially during COVID, and Jim Lakin can back me up on that, our income was less than our expenses, and we were really having to tap into that. That is not what we've had to do at all this year. We've been able to cover our expenses and still come out with a net plus. So the figures, these are only through year-to-date through the end of September. Our income year-to-date was $284,090.26. Our expenses, $283,145.31. Not a huge plus, but it is a plus. One thing I did not realize, my dear sister pointed this out to me. Do any of you shop at Kroger? If you shop at Kroger and you've got their card, or you use your phone number as an alternate ID, go to the Kroger website, set up your account, and you can indicate to them under their community sharing that you want them to share with Unity of Bonaire. We get checks every quarter from Kroger, because for every penny you spend, they're going to send us a percentage. So that helps us out as well. I'm going to check with some of the other grocery stores, but I do know that Kroger does that, and Kara had told me we had just gotten a check from them for the most recent quarter. Do I have any questions about our finances? And I will try to answer. Oh, we have done a couple of things. The interest on our money market account was basically nothing. I mean, it was more than less than 1%. And I was able to negotiate with the bank, and we have gotten that interest rate up to 1.5%. I'd like to see it higher, but that was the best right now they could do for us. We also took funds out of the money market account, and we've invested in a short-term CD that guarantees us a return of 5%. So we're looking for ways to make our money work for us, rather than us working all the time for our money. So we are looking at different ways to increase our income. Questions? All right, just a couple of things, and then I will open it up for comment. Boo and Stew next weekend, that's going to be a lot of fun. And as Reverend Patty invited, everybody come in costume. It's hard to believe, but we're going to start working on Christmas lights in the garden. November the 18th, we're going to start wrapping the lights all around the trees. Amy's going to start wrapping the gazebo up. So please come out and help us. We are planning to rent a boom to make the lights a little easier, wrapping on the trees. Our tentative grand illumination is December the 7th. December the 2nd, it's a Saturday, Sacred Service Day. So we're doing sacred service for the gardens and inside. So if you don't want to be out blowing leaves or raking leaves, we will be decorating the church for Advent and Christmas. So mark those dates. And that is all I have. Do we have any questions, things that you're interested in? My understanding, Patty can back me up on this, the electrician has scheduled several times and didn't show up, but the electrician has told us they will be here this Tuesday to hook the electrical work up. And once that's hooked up, then we can activate the sunflower. Excuse me. Any other questions? Thank you all for coming. I'm going to have Reverend Patty pray us out. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day.
So let's take another breath. Just let gratitude arise for the love in this place, for the love online, for all those who aren't able to be present with us today. Who we say we are and what we say we believe is that love is the strongest force in the universe, and this force is always available to us, always calling us forward into this present moment and into greater things to come. So we say yes, yes, yes. We are on board for becoming all that we can be. And so it is.